Okay, hello and welcome back. And today we are going to practice our question A style exam. So let me just start with the dashboard services. And this is a very nice exercise. And in this very exercise, we are going to learn how to make the report that is going to bring you professional marks. And we're also going to learn how to attempt question A. So as usual, we start with the requirements, and in here we're given appendices and requirement. Okay, we need to evaluate the links between current key performance indicators given in Appendix 1 and the mission of the dashboard services. So evaluate the links means that we need to say that this performance metric measures and this performance metric does not measure this part of the mission, and for example that this parts of mission are not measured at all. And in question I, we can have a question that is formulated like that. So the way the question is formulated will be assess whether these metrics actually measure the mission. But also we can have a question which would ask us to assess the performance dashboard or performance reporting. And in this very case, apart from making this connection, besides making the connection between mission and the metrics, we would also need to talk about other aspects of reporting, for example, whether the report gives information overload or not. Okay, we need to assess the assumptions and definitions used in the calculation of the current set of key performance indicators. What does it mean? Assumption and definitions means whether we are naming the stuff correctly. So, for example, we have an organic revenue here, and is organic revenue really organic? Evaluate the other aspects of reporting in the dashboard services performance dashboard given in Appendix 1. And this gives us a full 8 marks, so that's quite a lot. All right, so this is a shortened version of the question. So you will see that there are only 28 marks here, because here I just want to show you how to deal with this part of the syllabus. But of course, you're welcome to see the full version. And we will start with reading the scenario. So you are given professional marks, and this means that you need not only to provide the knowledge, but also to refer the knowledge to the scenario. And also you need to make sure that your layout, the layout of your work is appropriate. So in this very question, we are supposed to write a report, and report has a certain heading. So we will be given marks for just writing the report in the right way. So we would need to write report, then we'll write to, and usually it will be the board of the company. And here, yes, to the board of dashboard services. So to the board of dashboard services from. And if you do not see your position in the scenario, you can write an accountant, and that would be okay. An accountant does not mean that you are the person who does debits and credits. Instead, an accountant means that you are a specialist who does that stuff. So, report to the board of directors of DS from an accountant. Then we need to write a date, and the date will be either your exam date or just access. And it's very important not to leave anything personal in your file. So you cannot write that it's from Joan Doe, for example, or James Bond. No, nothing personal, just an accountant. And as for the date, you can write either the date of the exam or just access, and not the day of your birthday, for example. Then you need to have the subject of the report. And the subject is something that talks about all of the question asked. And quite often, well, considering that this is a 50-mark question, the question will be very different, and it will be really hard to combine them under one heading. So the safest way to do is just to write on performance management at the name of the company at DS. And it's very important that your subject fits within one line. And let me just leave a comment here. So it fits within one line. If your subject does not fit within one line, then it's just not the right subject. Please do not use that, because you will lose your professional marks. Then we would need to write an introduction. We do not name it as introduction, and here we are actually talking about what the report is going to be. So to do that, we would need the requirement, and now we need to rephrase that requirement in the third form, like the report evaluates the links between the current key performance indicators and its mission. So let me show you how I correct the requirement. I add here the report, then evaluates, then whatever was here. I need to delete in Appendix 1 and also words such as required by the CEO, because Appendix 1 is something that you have something as your working file. And this Appendix 1 will not be distributed in this very report. That's like, you know, with audit, you have plenty of audit papers and they have some reference. But when you give something to the client, you just give them a few documents, well, maybe audit report, and that's it. And therefore, you cannot refer to your working papers in the deliverables before a client. And here, the logic is the same. Okay, so the report evaluates the links between the current key performance indicators and DS and its mission. Then I need some glue word, and the glue word can be, it is followed by, and then I have another question. Assess the assumption and the definitions used in the calculation. Well, I will correct that as it is followed by the assessment of the assumptions and definitions used in the calculation of the current set of key performance indicators. And again, I delete the reference to Appendix 1. Appendix 1 is not part of the report. And finally, evaluate the other aspect of reporting in the dashboard. So finally, it evaluates the other aspect of reporting in the dashboard services performance dashboard, and I delete given at Appendix 1. And that is the introduction. And the thing is that you will be given 1 mark for your header and 1 mark for that introduction, because this is your professional style of communicating, and that is what your examiner expects you to do. Some other words that would help you to glue these parts would be then, well, so it is followed by, well, something like that, and finally. So you basically rewrite whatever you have there at the requirement, and then you need to answer. And when you answer the question, well, it would be really nice to mention the part of the question you are answering to. So it's part 1, and I use that part 1, but the naming of the caption should be report style. So I cannot just copy paste, evaluate the links between the current set key performance indicators and its mission. I need to name it as report, and usually it means that I need to use a noun. So the evaluation between the links of the links between the current set of key performance indicators. And I can introduce here an abbreviation, KPIs, of KPIs. A dashboard services and its mission. And again, the caption should fit one line as well. Okay, so I need to evaluate, and I will read the scenario and I will highlight whatever is important with yellow. Alternatively, you can highlight it with bold, but as I'm a tutor and I want you to understand better, I will use yellow. And it is very important to highlight because the scenario is very lengthy. It can be something like 2 A4 pages. And of course, you cannot read the scenario over and over again. So you need to have those highlights so that you can glance at the scenario and see the important pieces of the information that you haven't included in your answer. Because basically whatever is important should be reflected in your answer, because otherwise the examiner would just not put the information there. And this means that those highlights save you time on rereading, and also they give you the idea what to talk about. So Dashboard Services is a listed company, okay, and it's important for us. Well, for example, when we talk about performance metrics, we understand that there are shareholders who want to receive a return. Provides facilities management service where it manages such activities as cleaning, security, catering, and building services on behalf of its client. Okay, so these are pretty different services. Clients can outsource to dashboard services a single activity, or often outsource all level of this aspect in a full service contract. So this means that the contract can be small and it can be big. Okay. Then the mission of our dashboard services is to give their shareholders maintainable, profitable growth by developing the best talent to provide world-class services with maximum efficiency. In the question A, where usually you have to connect metrics with the mission, you are given 1 mark for breaking the mission into parts. So you would need to use bullet points, and I will show you how to. And therefore, it is very important to notice where you have mission or where you have some goals or objectives in the scenario. The board have asked the Chief Executive Officer to review the effectiveness of dashboard systems for performance measurement and management. Effectiveness means whether they reach the goal set, and systems means software usually. So the thing is as follows: when you have something like performance measurement system, performance management system, 95% chance is that they're talking about software. Sometimes they can talk to, they can ask about system, you know, like the whole process, the overall process, but usually it's about software. So you need to guess from the context. She has turned to you to begin this process by considering the strategic performance dashboard of dashboard services. She has supplied the most recent example in Appendix 1. She wants to report to the board, which will cover 3 aspects of strategic performance reporting and dashboard services. First, it should address whether the current set of key performance indicators measure the achievement of the mission by showing how each one links to all part of the mission. So with IPM, the thing is that your requirement can be very broad, and it can actually state something, just work, do something that the CEO told you to do. But the important thing is that there may be some specifics to the requirements in the scenario. Like, for example, You may have a requirement which says suggest performance metric, but in the scenario you are going to have something like that the CEO stressed that she only wants 2 metrics to be suggested, and this means that if you offer 3 or 4 metrics, you will lose your professional marks. And also you will not gain marks. You will not get extra marks for the time, for the extra effort that you spent. So this is very important to look in the scenario to see some new information regarding the requirement. And here it says that the connection should be done with the mission. Well, actually, we are always supposed to connect the metrics to the mission. She does not want suggestions of new indicators. Well, actually, any question, if it's not asking anything to suggest, then you should not suggest. Just curb your enthusiasm. Just do not shy your intelligence. No, if the question does not ask you to suggest, then you do not. But in here, just like last reminder, please do not suggest. Please do not suggest new indicators. So this means that if you do suggest, you would lose your professional marks. So there are so many ways to lose those 10 professional marks. Second, taking each of the current indicators in turn, she wants the assumptions underlying the calculation of the indicators examined. So we would look at that Appendix 1 and we will see, for example, return capital employed and say, okay, was it the right way to measure it like that? And is it the right definition? There has been a suggestion made in the press that Dashboard Services is producing a biased set of results aimed to mislead the markets. Okay, if you have in the question an opinion, and the opinion can be written like that, so there is a suggestion in the press, or for example, the director thinks, or the manager argued, so it means that somewhere in your answer, you need to say whether that person is right or wrong. Okay, so DS is producing a biased set of results aimed to mislead the markets. This would then artificially boost the share price and so boost the value of the senior management shareholder. So something about the influence on share price and the influence on the shareholding of the senior management. Third, the report should evaluate the other presentational aspects of the dashboard against best practice. Okay, so we will need to talk about best practice and why it is not that. The idea of employee share ownership has always been at the heart of DS's remuneration schemes. Its aim is to support an entrepreneurial culture and is a key differentiator in the market for new employees. The current reward system grants shares based on the appraisal of individual by the line manager against back categories such as leadership and entrepreneurship. Okay, here we see that there is something that is not connected with the questions asked, or because there will be some other questions, so that the total marks would be 50. So we can just skip that. And in response to this, the board have been discussing methods of analyzing and federal and moon building block model, which we do not know. So this basically means that this last block of information we just do not need. So I will delete that. And we have just one appendix that concerns us, and we have a report here. So we have the operating profit margin, secured revenue, management retention, order book, organic revenue, and return capital employed. So what we need to do, we need to break this mission in parts, and then we need to talk about each of those metrics. And please, on this very point, curb your enthusiasm. Please do not say something like, it is bad that they are only percentages or mostly percentages. It is good that we have a previous year. It is bad, or is it good that we have a breakdown by the types of services? Because this is not what is asked. That is other aspects of reporting. Now, our goal is to talk about just these headings, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 headers, 6 measures. We need to decide whether they're okay or not. Another thing is, when we are talking about measures, is to understand that a single measure cannot measure everything. So it's okay that it measures just something, but does not measure something else. That's why we need to have a mix of measures, so that one would measure one part of performance and the other would measure another part of our performance and another one. And in the end, we would get the full picture. All righty, so we have these measures and we have mission. So as we need to get our professional marks for communication skills, we will, before we break down this mission in parts, and I will copy paste that below, we would also need to say that performance report should be connected with mission. So as performance dashboard, is it the way they name it? Let me see. Performance dashboard. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Okay, performance indicators. It is very important that the key performance indicators chosen by the company measure all aspects of our mission to ensure that the company works in the directions which are said to be important in that mission statement. Okay, so notice that I explain here because I use because, well, or in this case too, it's more or less the same. So I need not only state the fact, but also explain it. And for my sentence to bring me marks, it has to be something about 2 or 3 lines long. And this probably will bring me a professional mark. Then I'm going to break the mission in part. And when I break mission in part, I look not at the English language, I look at the logical elements. Well, for example, the mission of dashboard services is can be broken down as follows. Can be broken down as follows. To give the shareholders maintainable growth. So first type of growth that we want to give the shareholders will be maintainable. Maintainable means that we will be able to keep that growth in future periods. Then it's going to be to give the shareholders profitable growth. And then it would be, we will say, by developing the best talent to provide world-class services with maximum efficiency. And now let us make it sound English. So to develop best talent, to develop the best talent, to provide world-class service, and to do that with maximum efficiency. And this is the only way, the only time where I use bullet points, because I need here bullet points. They are the must, because they show the examiner that I can look onto the sentence and see important parts, see the logic behind that. So this is why I absolutely have to make bullet points. As for other stuff, then no, you should not make bullet points, because first you will lose your professional marks, because you need to communicate, you need to explain. And also because when you use bullet points, you tend to write in shorter sentences. It's like, it's like working in your pajama. When you work in your pajama, you are not that efficient, or playing tennis in your pajama. Now, okay, you are still here, but you will be a little more efficient if you wake up, brush your teeth, and put something more work style related. Okay, so now look, we have this mission, and we have this metrics, and we are going to align this mission and this metrics in a second. And okay, I'm going to copy paste them, and I would like to suggest you to stop for a second and to think how you would do that. Why do you think this or that metric relates to that mission part or not?